And I let
Now,
Anitha in, who's one of our presenters.
okay, well, I will go ahead and get us started then. Thank you everybody for joining today's call. We're looking forward to what looks like a great agenda for today. So excited to be able to hop on. My name is Madison Han. I am our meeting and events manager here at Doug. So I help run our local meetup program as well as our regional program. And just here to tell you a little bit about Doug, and then we will get into our fantastic speakers. So who Doug is we are a free community for users, implementers, and resellers of Microsoft business applications. Our mission is to support the Microsoft Dynamics 365, GP, AI, and Power Platform community, and we want to be able to give folks the tools to be able to excel and grow in their personal and professional careers. Rules of engagement, these are pretty simple, but just be courteous, contribute to the meeting, let everybody participate, ask your speakers questions. That's how you end up getting the most out of these meetings. We also ask that you stay on mute for the entirety of the meeting unless the speaker wants everybody to come off mute and ask questions. But just make sure that you're muted. If you're able to turn your camera on, I think it's always helpful to our speakers, and especially in these virtual environments, to have folks a little bit more engaged. And just be courteous and kind. We also ask that there's no selling of your personal companies or businesses or services. We want these sessions to be solely educational. So again, please no sales pitches. Dynamics User Group, which is short for Doug. You'll hear me say Doug a lot, but technically the name is Dynamics User Group. We have multiple free online open forums where you can go onto our website and you can ask the community a question about a specific product, whether that's Business Central, customer engagement, finance and operations, etc. The community will help answer. We also have year-round webinars that are free to attend. We have local meetups like this one that are held virtually and in person all around the world. And you can check out all of our virtual meetups on YouTube. We record most of the virtual meetups, so if you're ever curious to hear what people around the world are talking about, you're welcome to check that out on our YouTube channel. It's always a great resource. A way to get updates for all of our local meetups is if you scan this QR code, you can select which meetup groups you're interested in, and then you'll be automatically signed up to get email notifications whenever there's a new meetup in that area scheduled. I would suggest scanning this because we have lots of different meetups. We have I think we have 65 now. And we have some that are focused on industry and interest. We have a government meetup group. We have a marketing meetup group. We also have young professionals and a mentorship group. So tons and tons of great groups to join. Feel free to scan that QR code and get signed up for email notifications. And next up, I'm going to move Drew's head here. We have our upcoming 2026 regionals. We probably need to cross Toronto off of this list because we are past Toronto, but we have Africa, Ohio Valley, which is probably the closest to you all. We're going to Montreal, Europe in Frankfurt, Denmark. And then we are also, I'm sorry, Frankfurt, Germany, not Denmark. Frankfurt, Germany, and we're going to Houston, Texas. And for those of you that aren't familiar with regionals, these are our DynamicsCon regionals. So they are a little bit larger in scope than local meetups like this one, but not quite as big as those super big conferences like DynamicsCon. They typically range between 150 to 300 attendees. Some are a little bit bigger than others, but a good way to get involved in your kind of local area and local community. Most of these are free to attend, if not a small fee. And the fee, if there is one, is donated to charity. 100% of the proceeds go to a local charity. So you can scan that QR code, sign up for them, or learn more. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have in the chat as well. And last but not least, we have Convergence coming up, and this is our Microsoft-led conference of the year, one of our 2 flagship events. This will focus on AI and all things D365. It will be December 8th through the 11th. We will have over 100 Microsoft-led sessions. This is a great place to connect directly with Microsoft. So we'll go over new release announcements, product updates, again, direct access to Microsoft product teams, and it will cover all of Dynamics 365. Those of you who have been around for a while are probably familiar with Convergence. So we brought it back last year. We sold out. We will sell out again this year, so get your tickets early. And we're looking forward to a great event. And with that, I will pass it back over to our leaders to introduce our speakers for the day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Madison. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We'll do quick introductions to Andrea and I for those who are joining our meetup group for the first time. So I'm Drew Lensack, Director of Delivery at Argano. I've been the co-lead of this New England Doug user group for the past few years with Andrea Ryerson. I'm a Microsoft MVP and Fast Track Recognized Solution Architect in the F&O space. So that's my specialty. I've been in Dynamics, F&O, and prior versions of AX since about 2008. So around 18 years now, first as an end user, and then now as a partner. Andrea?
Thank you, Drew. I'm Andrea, and my company is Eliphas. I'm a consulting person in the BC world. I have been in the BC and prior softwares like Navision since 2001. So I am one of the co-leaders here in the Northeast. So we welcome everybody. Thank you for joining, and we can't wait to hear our sessions.
Yeah, so for those who haven't seen, we actually have, at least for another day, because tomorrow we find out about renewals, but 3 Microsoft MVPs speaking today on some great topics. So we have Telemetry and Business Central, we have Telemetry and F&O, and we have Application Lifecycle Management in Power Platform Admin Center. So our first session today, I think we're a few minutes early, but we can get started if she's ready, is by Anitha Eswaran. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks, Drew. Thanks, Andrea and Madison. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone here. Thank you for joining the session. Thank you, Drew, for organizing this session. Can I share my screen so I can start the presentation? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Let me go off my camera because I have some network problem here, so that it should not be a. Yes. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, let me put it in the presentation mode. Okay, so today's session is on telemetry in D365 F&O. So the agenda here is a quick intro about monitoring and telemetry, and how is LCS, why are we moving from the LCS to this app in Azure Insights, and an overview why this monitoring matters, and then followed by a demo, like where I will be giving to how to configure the telemetry in F&O, and then how do you capture that in the Data Explorer as a dashboard, and we'll end up with key takeaways. A quick intro about me. Myself, Anitha Eswaran, and I am an MVP and MVP in D365 F&O, ERP AI, and I am a Microsoft certified trainer, and I am a technical architect from D365 F&O side. And I regularly blog, and I have a newsletter as well. If you want, you can follow me. You can connect with me in my LinkedIn, and you can subscribe to my blog and newsletter. Okay, so what is monitoring and telemetry? So first, what is telemetry? So telemetry, it refers to the automated collection of signals. Like what is signals here? You are going to configure the system to emit the events or the performance metrics or the usage. So these are all emitted by the application. So application is not going to emit by itself, right? So either via users or via the batch jobs. So telemetry refers to the automated collection of the signals here. And monitoring and telemetry in F&O, what it does, it provides a structure and scalable way to understand how the enterprise application behaves in the real-time usage, because when it is directly integrated with the Azure App Insights, we will be able to collect and store the analyze and telemetry data. So what happens when the telemetry signals are emitted, the Azure App Insights collect those data With that, you will be able to analyze the data. It might be a raw data, but you can convert that to a meaningful dashboard or via the Azure Insights. Okay. So at a high level, this monitoring and telemetry addresses several critical enterprise needs. So the first one is organization will be able to gain insight on how the users are using the F&O application, rather than as of now, we are going based on some assumptions. Hey, the performance might be due to this, or the page timeout is due to that. This might be due to some query which is running in the background. Everything runs on assumption, right? But with this telemetry, you will be able to get an insight of how the users, the application, the F&O users use this our application. Second, so whenever there is any issue, either the system admin or the developers will be reached out. Correct. So this is a handy tool for the dev or the system administrators, with where they will be able to get the diagnostic data to understand the issues or the bottlenecks or the failures. So this is a handy tool for the developers or the system admin. Third, and it will improve the operational efficiency. How does it improve? Because you have the data in front of you to reduce, to analyze, to investigate, to diagnose what has gone wrong, right? So this reduces the time to detect the failures, and in turn, it will also lower the downtime and the less business disruption you will have. So the important principle here is the data ownership. So who owns the data here? Microsoft doesn't own the data. So we are going to configure this application insights in customer owned subscription. So the entire data is under customer control. So you have the customer will have the full control of how the data is stored and how this can be analyzed, how this can be retained, and what are the complaints and the security. All this, the security complaints, all these can be taken care and under the customer subscription itself. So this enhances the operational efficiency in turn. Okay. So now why organization needs more than LCS? So the picture what I have seen is more familiar to you, right? Because LCS is with us for more than a decade, correct? So where whenever there is any issues, you will be able to immediately go to the particular environment, go to the environment monitoring, check the activity, see the logs, and what are all the events. So these are all the regular checks what we do. Okay, so some monitoring capacities are not keeping up with the needs of the users. That is what we see with the LCS. So just to cite you an example, the outfit what I wear 10 years before might not fit me now. Why? I might have outgrown. My expectations would have become a different one. So same case with LCS as well, because we are integrating D365 FO with various applications, right? Warehouse, mobile, Power Platform, or the Copilot. So we need to have some sophisticated solution where you need to monitor the holistic way instead of only one solution. So that is where the LCS is lacking that sophisticated solution here. So we need to have some real-time alerting. We need to have some notifications. You need to have some logs. You need to have some increased monitoring. And thus, we are moving from LCS to configuring this application insights. So to give you a quick idea of what this architecture is about, so if you see what are all the data sources, if you see everything comes under the Azure Monitor. So application insight is an extension of the Azure Monitor. The data sources, if you see, you have an application as data source, infrastructure, Azure platform, custom sources. So D365 F&O or BC falls under the custom data sources. So whatever the signals or the data, when we configure, the custom data sources will emit the signals. So these are all captured, sent to the data platform. So in our case, we are sending it to logs. So either you can send it to metrics, or we can send it to changes or traces. So I will tell you how this log is, because we have a set of standard logs where which has tables where it is capturing all the data which is sent by our custom data source, which is F&O here. And from these logs, the application insights can consume it, and it can give you a quick idea, quick insight of where the performance is, or what is the exception, or what happens, what page is frequently accessed. All these applications, all this can be done using application insights. It is not, I mean, we are not going to stop with that. On top of that, we can also create a dashboard For instance, I will be showing you how a dashboard can be created to monitor this data on the failure or batch which is failed, or if there are any DIXF, how many DIXF batch jobs are exporting, importing. All this can also be visualized. It is not only in the Data Explorer, you can also export it to Power BI. On top of it, you can analyze it and you can respond. So this is what is real-time monitoring, right? You need to respond to this. You need to respond to the signals. So all this respond, and you can also integrate with the Azure services. So here Azure services, it can be event hubs, or you can have your own API or logic apps, which is well known in middleware to send or receive the data. So this is how a kind of holistic solution where the custom data source sends the logs, and from there you are able to monitor everything. So this gives you an insight of how the architecture is for monitoring and telemetry application insights. Just to repeat, so how does this monitoring and telemetry in F&O works? So since ours is mainly focusing on F&O, so how does it work? So this is mainly designed by leveraging the Azure native services. So I have shown you in the previous slide. So Azure native services, there are extensive Azure native services. So for instance, you can send it to Azure. So while we keep the customer data under their control. So as I said, Microsoft is not managing this data. So this is using this Azure native services. We will also keep the data under the control. So at the core of this architecture is the direct integration between F&O and app insights. So whenever the users interact, so signals are emitted, so which describes, so when the signals are emitted, you can understand their usage and the performance and the behavior. And so this acts as a central repository here. So what Azure Application Insight acts as a central repository and the analytical engine here. So how does it act? Because it stores the raw telemetry data, and it also provides a rich querying. You can query it using the KQL queries, or you can export it to a dashboard, or you can use it using in the Azure portal, all this. So it acts as a centralized analytics repository. Then comes the separation of responsibility. So this is one of the key architectural consideration here, where you have a separation of responsibility. How do you, when you configure, FO emits the structured data, okay? And this is one responsibility from this custom data source. Then Azure Application Insights, it receives the data. It also stores the data. Then it allows you to analyze the data, and you can present the data in any dashboard or export to the Power BI. So the separation of responsibility is also one of the major advantage here. So it also supports with the integration of Azure monitoring solution across multiple apps and services. Why this monitoring matters? So of course, you can ask why do we need to configure the monitoring here? When you have a complex business system where it supports the finance and operations or SCM, even a small issue can have a widespread impact, right? So that is why the monitoring matters here, because it provides the data-driven insight. What is data-driven insight? How the data is transmitted, why the issue has occurred, what has caused the issue. So all this insights on the data you will be able to get if you configure the monitoring. And one of the key benefit is, as usual, gaining the insight into the app usage. So if anyway the signals are emitted to the application insights, so you will get more insight on how the application is used and what are all the features. For instance, if there is a new feature in the F&O, and you can see if the feature is frequently used or not. So, and how frequently a particular form is accessed, and what are all the time periods. So with all this, you will be able to prioritize the improvements, and you can validate the design, and you can ensure the system aligns with the actual business needs. So, but just imagine, without monitoring, you will only have a limited feedback. As I said, it is only based on the assumptions, so which may not give you a full picture, and that is the reason monitoring becomes an actionable intelligence. Gather monitoring requirements. So every solution starts with the requirement gathering, right? So even in this also, when you design a solution for monitoring, you should do some requirement study. So why is it needed? Because I will be showing how do you configure the telemetry in F&O. So there are so many telemetry signals out of box. So you need to decide which one aligns with your business, operation and the technical goals. So if you enable for everything, the team will be overwhelmed with lots of unnecessary data. So you need to understand which is the main solution, which is the main signal you need to send, and that would be useful for your business. So for instance, it is like what do you say, like it can span across the dimensions. For instance, from the business perspective, you will be more, the business might need to monitor the order processing or the invoicing or the financial closure. All this core operations they need to monitor. From the operational perspective, the system admin will be checking whether there is a system availability. How is the system availability? How is the response time? What are the errors? How is the integration health? So this is one dimension. And if you see from the dev team dimension, they will be able to get this data. They will have a detailed data for further investigation. If there are any issues reported, rather than first debugging, they will be able to see this data, analyze this data, and then they will be able to sort out where the issues. So in this way, you should be able to clearly articulate the need of your business. So by investing the time in gathering the monitoring requirement, organization can build the effective, the last point here, they can build the effective monitoring solutions that supports the daily day-to-day activities and the long-term improvement. Okay, now we need to get started with the demo. So before we get started, we need to first set up the application Azure application insights. So we need to create an Azure application insight where that will be responsible for capturing the telemetry data. Next is we need to configure the FNO for telemetry emission. How do we configure? So we need to connect this Azure application insight to our FNO. And on top of that, how do we explore this telemetry data? How do you read this logs, all this? And we need to iterate and enhance this one. So this is a repeated process. So you will not be able to get a proper monitoring solution in the first attempt, but you need to keep iterating. You can first verify, hey, is the signal needed? No, I don't need this. Okay, turn it off. Okay, so I am missing this signal. Hey, turn it on. So all this is an iterative and enhanced monitoring is required. So what I will do, before this, we need to also have the prerequisites. So for enabling this, the telemetry insights, there will be a DM of telemetry. It is controlled by two files. So it is enabled by default, and these will be available in the bills which are listed below, either in the 10.406, 10.046, 10.047, or 10.048. So by default, these two parameters will be enabled. But in case if that is not enabled, you will not be able to see this option in your system. So in that case, we need to contact the Microsoft to get it enabled for us. So this cannot be done by us. So this has to be done with Microsoft support. So make sure you are in the latest build. Let me go to my portal. Okay, so in this portal, let me search for application insights. So I have already configured an application insight here, which is ready to capture the logs. I can give a quick walkthrough of how the application insight is created. So here, if you want, you can create a new resource group or insights. And in which region you need to know, in insights _ AE. This is a unique name. And you can select the regions. As of now, my region belongs to South India. And if you want, it will create a new log analytics workspace. But if you already have an analytics workspace, you can opt for that. And you can review and create. So here, this will do a basic validation. It will take only few seconds to create this. So while this deployment is going on, so if you see, the deployment is in progress. So it will create a new workspace which we have opted, and it will enable. It will also set up the standard logs also. So let us wait for it to complete. It doesn't take much time. Yeah, see, just a minute. So not more than a minute. So this is complete. So now going back, now this is ready. And if you go to the logs, you have an option to go via the logs here or from the logs here. And you can skip this. This is all the query logs. I will show you what are all the tables which are available in standard. So for instance, if you enable the custom event table, I will show you I will just switch my screen between F1O and Azure portal. So these are all the signals, whatever the signals which are emitted from the F1O will be captured in these tables. Okay, so let me go back to my application insights, which I have configured earlier. So now going back to F1O. First, you need to enable this feature. I have already enabled it, but I will show you where this feature is enabled, where we need to enable this feature. So here you can search for telemetry. And if you see, this is enabled by default. This is the first step. And also make sure you are in the right build, number one. And once this is enabled, in the system administration, let me expand, you should be able to see telemetry, monitoring and telemetry parameters. This is the main area. So this is the step. So now the application insight is ready in the Azure portal. Now we are going to configure F1O to emit the signals. Okay, so you have, as I said, you have these many standard out-of-box options. You don't need to enable everything because the team will be overwhelmed with unnecessary data. So you need to identify which best suits for your business needs, and then you need to enable it. So as of now, I have enabled batch start time, batch. So if there are any throttling in the batch, you will be able to see. And if there are any batch DMF, DIXF job start or end is there, you will be able to see. And yes, if you have any warehouse configuration events, that also you can enable it. So let me just save it. Okay. And this environment part. So this environment is the F1O environment. So if you see this environment ID, this is the environment ID you see in either a PPAC or in the LCS. So if you see in this environment ID, this is the environment ID of the F1O. So this is configured. And the environment mode here is either the development, test or production. So I don't recommend to configure it in the development environment or the test environment. The reason being it might end up in the additional cost. But for your practice purpose or the test purpose, you can enable that in the test as a test mode. So and just save it. And so now F1O is ready to send the data. So now how do you connect this app insight with your F1O? There comes the third tab. So make sure, and here also it starts with the environment mode, and make sure the environment modes are aligned. If you select test here, you should select test here. And if the environment mode differs, then the signals will not be emitted properly in this one. And the instrumentation key, you have two fields here, instrumentation key and the connection string. So this we need to take it from the app insight. So if you go to the app insight, you have this instrumentation key. You need to copy this and paste it here. Next is the connection string. Connection string is also available in the app insights. Just copy this connection string and paste it here. Over. So now our F1O is ready to send the data to the app insights here. Okay. Now let me go to the logs. For instance, let me just, since I have enabled this page view. So I would have enabled this page views, and these are all the custom events. So I have enabled custom metrics, user sessions. All this will be captured in the application insights. So just for instance, I am going to open a vendor payment journal and see if I am able to trace this particular page in the app insights. Let it open. So now if I go back to my app insights, go to logs. You can either access the logs from here or from here. This is the query hub where you can skip this. And if you see, all these are KQL queries, so that I am not going to cover today. Just how do you make use of this standard tables which are emitted from, which are capturing the signals from the D365 F1 or the custom data source here. So for instance, if you see this page views, if you see, for instance, now I have opened the ledger journal table. This is ledger journal table 5. So here you are able to see this ledger journal table. So you see the duration, including the performance bucket. And if you just expand it, you will be able to see who logged in and from where, everything you will be able to see. And the duration, bucket, page view. So this comes with a page view. Similarly, you have this custom events, like you have anything on the batch. So if you see now I have enabled the batch, right? If you remember, I have enabled the batch start and stop time. It's very specific. I mean, it is very generic. It will capture all the batch. For instance, there will be some standard batch which keeps running every 30 minutes, right? Even that batch signals also will be captured. So if you see, these are all the batches which I have enabled. I mean, these are all the batch jobs which are executed during this particular time frame. So it will give you the GUID, including the what do you say, the item count, and then the resource ID. All this you will be able to see. So if you see what you understand from here, you don't need to understand. You don't need to capture all the batches, correct? And so you need to pick and choose which best suits for your business needs. So accordingly, you need to enable it. So since I have turned on this batch start and stop time, it is bringing me all the batch and start stop time here. So if you don't need it, you can go and disable it. That's it. So this way, from now on, it is not going to emit this signal here. Okay. Now we have this raw data. So for instance, how do you, as I have already informed, how do you transfer this raw data to a meaningful dashboard, right? So only if you see it as a pictorial representation, it will be more helpful, right? We already have, let me go to this data explorer. So we have few dashboards. You can either create your own dashboard, or we have some dashboards in the GitHub, which is provided by Microsoft, where you will be able to download this batches, for instance, batch or DMF or the errors. So you can download the JSON and then you can import it. For instance, let me download for DMF. Let me download here. You have a download option. This is a download. Meanwhile, what I will do, let me go and just execute some data DIXF jobs. What I will do, let me do an export of the customer group. Let it run. So the customer group is not going to take much time. So this is an export. So what I am expecting is, since I have executed here and my DIX is also enabled, I should be able to see this in my dashboard. So that is what my intention is. So that is the reason I am executing. Also, let me import. Like for instance, let me import a customer group, but with some invalid data. What I will do, I have a customer group here, a file here, and I am going to pass some invalid payment term ID. So ideally it should fail. So it should show me one failure also in the dashboard. Let me go and let me run this project, upload the file, import customer group, upload. Okay, import. So let it also run. I am expecting one should be success and the other should be failure. It should be partially succeeded because I have given some invalid data. The intention here is this failure should be captured in my dashboard, which I will be showing you in the data explorer part. Okay, so as I said, this is wrong and this is ended up in error because this net 50 is not found in this terms of payment and one is completed. Okay, so now let us go back to the data explorer. So now I have imported, so now I have downloaded one JSON from the GitHub. For instance, this DIXF dashboard, the JSON I have downloaded, you have an option to import from the file. So you can import. So the one which I have downloaded is here. Just create it. So at the moment, you will not have any information here. The reason here, the data source. This is just a template, correct? You need to connect it to your application inside. Only then you will be able to understand, you will be able to get this dashboard properly. So where do you get this cluster URL? So it is in, as usual, you should go back to the Azure portal and I will tell you where you need to fetch this particular URL. So if you see, let me copy paste it. So this first part remains the same. The ADE dot application insights.so remains the same. And let me go to my portal and the one where I have configured the insights. This one. If you go to the properties, you go here, you have this resource ID. So if you see, this is connected to our workspace. Just copy this and this is your cluster URI. Now it is ready. Go back to your data explorer. Paste this, connect. See, it is connected. So it is, I can repeat it again. So the first part remains the same and you need to copy the resource ID from here so that this cluster URL becomes your data. Will be with that you will be able to access your database. So this is the database. And if you remember, this is the database where all these tables are available. So if you see this, this is my log where you will be able to see all these tables. Now going back to the data explorer, and this is the database. If the connection is correct, the database will automatically pop up. And the query results. So you have an option for this query result here. Either you can leave it in the disabled state. You have to come and manually, you need to come and manually refresh it, or you can leave it every 5 seconds once, 10 seconds. So as of now, I am leaving it to every 5 seconds. It has to refresh. Let me apply. Now refresh. So if you see, this is my DIXF monitoring job. So this is the count of the import and export. So in the last 6 hours, you can keep it in the last 30 minutes. How many have completed? And if you see, what are all the import and export? I have one import and I have one export also. And so if you see, these are all the sum, including the total number of records it is able to give us. And on top of that, what are the total records per project and how many total executions are there? All this you will be able to see. For instance, the total duration per data project. So these are all a kind of dashboard, inbuilt dashboard. So it is already available in the GitHub. You can import it and then make your changes in the cluster URI, and then you can create this dashboard. Let me save this. Similarly, I have created the other batch boards also, the errors. In the last one error, if there are anything, here you will not be able to capture the DIXF errors because DIXF errors are captured already in the DIXF dashboards. So here, if there are any custom errors, for instance, if you're running a batch which has ended up in the error, those can be captured here. So as of now, it is empty because I don't have an execution for it. And the forms. If you see what are all the most opened forms in the last 20 hours or last 1 hour, what is the form? What is the number of forms accessed here? So here you will be able to see if there are any feature enabled by FNO. I mean, if you're trying to use a new feature and if you want to track whether the users are using that particular feature in that form, you will be able to see how frequently the form is accessed. So all this can be tracked here, the top 20 most open forms, and what is the form execution speed, and if you see the form execution per legal entity, so this also can be seen. It is based on the form most opened forms here, And see, if you see the longest duration, now here comes the performance. So if you are having some performance issues in your form, then you don't need to reach the Microsoft now, because if you are using an LCS, obviously we need to reach the Microsoft for additional information. But if you configure this, you will be able to see this will be alert. This will be in the red alert. Like for instance, this is the form where it is having some longest average duration. So, and also this ledger table, these two forms which I have accessed, and the form duration trend, for instance, the feature management, DIXF, which I have frequently accessing, and the execution times. All this, the form instance execution times, and even this also captures the DIXF history list also here. If you see, these are all the forms which are all used frequently. Similarly, you have other dashboards in the GitHub, where if you want to check something for the slow queries, you can download it and then you can monitor the slow queries here. And you have for batch, and I have already shown this for batch, I think. Let me go here. Yeah, I think I should have for batch. Let me see. Yes. So since I think I have disabled recent, I mean, just now I have disabled it. So for the last 15 minutes, I will not be able to see any batch emitting, which are emitting the signals. But if there are any batch overload, then you will be able to track it here. And on top of it, you have for errors. If there are any errors in your custom errors, all this can be captured. So this is the way you can kind of emit the signals from FNO to. I'm sorry, I hear some background noise. Okay, fine. So we have understood how the signals emitted from FNO are captured in the Azure application insights, and how this we have exported in as a dashboard in the Data Explorer. So then going back to our PowerPoint. So this one we have seen. So the next question what comes to your mind is it only possible for the standard signals? No, it is also possible to extend the telemetry to emit the data for our custom forms or the custom data events. So you have a separate class for that. So you can extend that class and you can emit the signals to track your issues, or if to track the data on your custom forms or the custom tables, or even you can track the business events as well. So in this way, you will be able to get the insights on how the data is being used in FNO. Cost, yes. Now cost is one of the major factor which decides whether you need to use the telemetry app insights or not. Yes. So if you see, enabling the feature in the D365 FO, this doesn't incur any cost. But storing, analyzing the telemetry data in the application Azure Insights will incur the cost. So we need to make sure the cost management and the governance, we need to make sure it is as per our business needs. That is what I keep telling. So for instance, the costs are mainly driven by the data ingestion volume. So we need to make sure you are not overloading all the data. You know, since there are so many signals, there are so many options available in your application, you don't need to enable everything. Otherwise, it will end up in more cost. So how the data is ingested based on the volume, and how the retention duration. So if you are retaining your data for a long time, that also, it is all the Azure monitor cost. So that also will incur cost. On top of that, the query usage. So you are using the KQL queries, the queries what I have seen, what I have shown you, all this will also incur the extra cost. So on top of it, these telemetry signals are mainly for if the data, I mean, it is mainly for the data control and the compliance consideration. So if you are storing the data, you need to also follow your security and compliance consideration. So I would suggest, do not enable the data unnecessarily. Do not enable this application inside this telemetry unnecessarily in the development environment or the test environment, because that also would end up in the cost. So I would suggest it is better to enable that in the production environment, that too for the options where you find it is needed for your business. So only for those options you need to enable the feature, and then the cost can be under control. So it is like, as usual, it is iterative. You enable this, you monitor the cost. You also have an option to send an alert, configure an alert, where it will send an alert once that particular the usage is reached. So accordingly, then you can monitor what are all the data you need to emit. And these are all the references. And I have also written a detailed blog about how the application insights and how the application insight is configured. Whatever I have given the demo here, you can refer it from my blog. And also, as usual, the Microsoft Learn is the best resource to learn all the basics about the monitoring and telemetry. And the Microsoft Fast Track team has also given the walkthrough of how this telemetry is configured in FNO and what are all the steps. So all these videos are quite helpful if you're going to start this journey with telemetry and monitoring. So almost we have reached the end of the session. So just a quick recap of the session. So we have understood what is telemetry and why do we move away from LCS, and how do we configure telemetry in FNO, and what are all the applications, what is application insight, how did we create an application insight, and how do we configure this application insight in FNO, and how the Azure Data Explorer is used, ending with the costing and the custom telemetry. And we have reached to the end of the session. Yes, if you have any questions, you can let me know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anitha.
We'll see if there's any questions in the chat. I guess first off, from your perspective, do you see a lot of your clients investing in telemetry, or is that something that's typically pushed off to like a later phase or an optimization type project?
Okay, so as usual, so of course we are using this telemetry, but limited. So we monitor the cost and we enable the telemetry only for the forms based on our business needs. We are not done for anything on the custom telemetry, but we are using the standard ones which are available in the FNO, but not all the options. Mainly we need to monitor the custom events. So for that we have enabled. And of course, it is a learning phase. Like we need to understand how do we control the cost. So it took almost 1 month for us to understand how the cost is calculated. So accordingly, we managed it. So we are using.
Great. Seeing some stuff being typed in the chat, just trying to make sure we get the questions. Looks like we have one from Radha. We have health metrics in LCS like memory available and CPU utilization for AOS. Can we track the same in telemetry?
We have health metrics in LCS like memory available and CPU utilization. Yes, that is what is the, yes, we will be able to track this memory available. I think we have an option, that is where this custom event is, but we need to extend this telemetry, the custom telemetry, and then bring this changes. But if you see this memory availability, I think I have shown this in the batch also, right? Where you see the CPU utilization, where I have shown it in the dashboard. So the basic things you will be able to see that in our dashboard itself, the one which I have shown you.
Just monitoring, see if more are coming in.
It looks like Uday has a question. You can come off mute if you want to ask.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, Anitha, Uday here. Yeah, I have been using this app inside from more than a year. I have a few questions related to this cost. Is there any option that we have to configure in this app insight that Microsoft to recommend in the production to use some features for a cost optimization in this app insight? Is there any this kind of features those are available?
You have a cap where in the monitoring section, you have an option to enable a cap where once that particular limit is reached, you will be able to configure an alert. But cost optimization, it is in your control. Microsoft will not be able to help you in that. You need to configure the cap and see if that amount is reached, then you should be able to get an alert. And then again, you need to go back, which is giving you the higher, which signal is taking most of the cost, and then you should be able to tweak accordingly.
Okay, and I would like to request you, is there any best practice that you can recommend for the any multiple sandbox or multiple production environments, like related to alerts or this balancing monitoring capabilities? Will you recommend any separate, or will you recommend to use all the things that are
I
available?
would not recommend for sandbox because that would be any additional cost for you, right? So because doing something on your sandbox, if you want, you need to enable and disable it immediately because that would incur additional cost. My personal recommendation, maybe you can get an advice from your Microsoft architect, but my personal recommendation is it is better to enable this insights only in the production environment. For learning purpose, you can do it in the sandbox or the development environment and disable it once you are done. But it is better you do it in the production environment and only for the specific events which as per your business needs.
Yeah, okay. And also related to this alerts, I have configured a few alerts. For example, if we'll consider the batch failure. Uh, since there is already FNO provides one standard in the uh, FNO itself for the batch failure alerts. Also, we can use the Power Automate these kind of scenarios. Which will you recommend? Whether the configuring this Power Automate flow or this App Insight alert?
See again an app insight alert. App insight alert is also recommended, but it depends again on your organization decision, Uday. For instance, Power Automate, again you need to connect this to the FNO, and again you need to configure a different flow for sending an alert, correct? But you already have an inbuilt capability in App Insights where you can use that and then send an alert. So I would personally recommend using the alert mechanism in the App Insights. So everything will be in under one roof. You don't need to juggle here and there, right?
Yeah. Okay. However, I mean, our production environment will always monitored by the functional team or support team, all these things. And how you will consider this App Insight will performance monitoring will overlap this.
Sorry, I didn't get you. Could you rephrase your question, please?
Yeah, I mean, most of our functional team and infra support team usually will do all these things manually. So,
Right.
apart from these, how this will App Insight performance monitoring will overlap this? I mean, I can consider this, uh, it will be useful, right? I mean,
See, mainly, at the moment you can compare from the LCS perspective and this App Insights perspective. So if you are facing some issue when you are with the LCS, you go to environment monitoring, then you go to that raw logs, all events, and then you get only the limited information, correct? That is like we are lacking a sophisticated solution here, correct, Uday? But
yeah.
if you come to App Insights, I have already shown you in this session also, right? You will be able to see which form is having some performance. As at the moment, I didn't have any forms which are having some any performance issues. You will be able to track which form is taking more time to load and how many batches have failed. So this such very minute information you will not be able to see in the LCS telemetry. So that is the difference here.
Yeah.
Did I
Okay.
answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you. And okay, for this, okay. And I would just like to ask one query. Is there any possibility in future that we can configure? I mean, we can integrate our App Insight with our Copilot agents. Is there any current progress, or is there anything future we can expect this?
I am not sure. We need to check with the Microsoft roadmap whether they are planning to have this implemented with the Copilot. At the moment, I don't have much idea on this, Uday.
Okay, then. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Right. I think that'll have to be our last question so we can get to the next session. But a huge thank you to Anitha for sharing your time and your expertise. That was a great session. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Thanks all. Thanks, Andrea.
So Andrew, we have a little bit of a game for the group. Well, but before we get started with the next session with David, do you want to talk about what we have? I think you're on mute.
Sorry, thank you. Yes, we have a little dynamics trivia. So we're going to post 4 questions between the speakers. So we're going to have 4 questions coming up real soon. Each question will be a multiple choice. So you could just give us the answer. The first person to respond with the correct answer will get a point. And at the end of the event, whoever has the most points will win a $25 gift card to Starbucks. So I hope you guys have a little bit of fun. I'm going to put the questions right in the Q&A. If you go up top next to the chat, there's a question and answer. I'm going to post the first question right in there with the multiple choice, and feel free to send in your answers. Everybody ready? All right.
Yes.
Okay, here's the first one. No answers yet?
I say it took a second for it to show up for me when I was looking, so maybe
Okay.
people didn't see it.
Can everybody see the question?
Yes, actually, I was expecting that in the chat, but I think we should go check in the question and answers, right? So
Yes,
that is
question
why
and
we don't
answers.
have it. Yeah.
There should be a little icon at the top next to the chat that says Q&A, or depending on where you have it on your Teams.
Okay. Any other
One
answers?
comment. Got an answer. We got one answer.
We'll give a couple more seconds. Oh, all right, here we go. We have C. Neither did you change your answer?
We can
Yes.
see that it's edited.
No, but no, by mistake I clicked
No
A.
point for you.
It was some C.
All right, everybody is correct. The Navision was originally developed by Demigard Data. All right, here's the next
Maybe
question.
they're taking so long, they're all using Copilot to search the answers.
Yeah. All right, maybe we won't give you so much time. All right, you ready, guys? Here's question number 2. These should be fairly easy. I don't see any answers yet.
Just came through for me. I see some.
Okay.
Bunch of them.
All right. Do we have a winner in there, Drew? I don't have any answers.
So the one at the top is the most recent when they all say just now, I'm assuming.
Yes, I took the one from the top. Yep.
Okay. So then it looks like Rada got that one first.
All right.
It's coming through. Just so you know.
Here is question number 3.
If anybody knows this one without researching it, I'd be surprised.
I know.
Maybe you.
I actually didn't. Maybe Dave. Dave might have known this one. I see he's on here.
He's like, great, this is giving me time to prep for my session that's about to start.
Project Green. I was there when it all went down. So fun. So
Look
fun.
at that. Anitha, I think you got this one. All right. And question number 4 is, there you go. This one should be quick and easy. And Tracy, looks like you're the winner on that one.
Yay.
Yay! All right. So question number 1 was Uday. Number 2 was Radha. Am I saying that name right? 3 was Anitha, and 4 was Tracy. So that was round 1. We will do the same thing after Dave's session. He's going to do telemetry on BC. So Dave, we will hand it over to you.
Will we?
Oh, Mike, you have a chance to redeem yourself. Round 2 and round 3.
You're only 1 point behind.
All right, you can hear me now, right?
Yes, we can hear you
sir.
now.
Fantastic. Let me just pop on here for a minute and say hello.
Yes.
That come up? Okay, super. A little bit of a busy day today. This is really cool. I'm glad to see so many people here at this Meetup. This is like the second Meetup we've done in a couple of weeks, Andrea. The Northeast is hopping. So I appreciate the opportunity, Drew and Andrea, both of you, to speak a little bit about Business Central telemetry today, if that's all right with everybody. I'm ready to dive in and get going on this one. But I wanted to at least say hello up front to say welcome, and I appreciate you taking time to come learn a little bit about BC telemetry. I can take some questions at the end, but I think it's kind of important to note up front before we go through this. Anitha did a great job. I caught the tail end there, and talking about cost and talking about doing it in production versus sandbox. Those are all fantastic concepts and things to just make sure that you are thinking about as you go to explore telemetry for Business Central. It all applies. It's still application insights. It's still Azure Data Explorer. It's still all that stuff. And then some. There's actually, the way I present and talk about telemetry is a lot more. It bridges a gap between what some of the developers want and need, but also, a holistic review and overview of the environment of Business Central, but also for the whole life cycle, starting when you get ready to implement BC all the way through post go live phases. You've got control over your telemetry, and it's a really rich resource to capitalize on. So my presentation is more geared toward first timers. If you've never really seen telemetry for Business Central, I'm going to introduce you into the tools and the techniques, maybe some tips that I use. I got 5 tools for telemetry and 5 tips for Business Central telemetry as well. So tools and tips with some bonuses as well. 1 bonus tool and 1 bonus tip. So if it's all right with you, I'm going to go ahead and kill my camera for a few minutes and share my screen. And then we can come back for questions and such, if that's all right. Sure. Super. Does that come up? You see our presenters for today?
Looks good.
All right. Super. Well, welcome. So my name is David Laster. In my day job, my real life, I'm the director of software solutions at Greybock. We're a 33-year-old technology company in the Boston, Massachusetts area. I live and work in Stowe, but the home office is based in Peabody, Mass. I'm a Microsoft MVP for Business Central. I have about 27 years now of Dynamics in general. I started in 99 on Dynamics GP. And that quiz question about 2001, that's real. All of that, 2001, when everything tried to come together, and Microsoft really wanted to get into the business applications space. And look at us now. We've got AI ERP. You know, we've really come quite some way. So I'm really passionate about reporting and analytics, and what you can get out of telemetry in Business Central is something I'm hoping you can walk away with a little knowledge of and tips on how to use. So the first tool I'm going to talk about here is the Power BI usage app. All right. I got to get through one or two topics before it all really comes together. The Power BI usage app is a free Power BI app from Microsoft. You go, you download, and you point it at your Business Central environment. Okay. That's fantastic because Business Central and Microsoft provide it, they maintain it, and it's a really easy way to get into your environment and see things that those of us coming from Great Plains and Solomon on-prem up to the cloud, we have a different way of looking at and managing our environment. This tool is probably my favorite because it just provides insights into things that you just don't get access to really easily anymore without really telemetry. So really what it does, the tool, it connects to your application insights resource. Anitha talked about that before, but that's essentially a paid bucket, a container that stores data that you send to it at the end of the day. All right. It's all in Azure. And again, you can control the cost, you can control what goes and how you clean it and purge it and how you share it. But the idea is you need a container first so that telemetry that gets emitted from Business Central knows where to go. Once it's there, you can drop this Power BI report, click a button, and then go through and look at the 4 out-of-the-box reports. There's a usage, errors, performance, and administration. There's something for everybody in here. Project managers, people just starting their Business Central journey, expert developers. Believe me, expert developers rely on this type of stuff because it's easy, it's free. It actually gives and surfaces the stuff they care about. I'll show some of that in our presentation today. It does come with sample data. So even if you don't plug it into your Business Central environment, you can still see what, long-running SQL queries look like and, maybe web service call errors. So you can see what the data might look like before refreshing with your own. So that's just kind of a neat byproduct of Power BI, the product, the app that it is. The aka.ms BC Telemetry or BC Telemetry report, ideally you can go to that one-stop shop and get everything you need for the BC Telemetry setup. You will need a Power BI Pro license in order to leverage this because you have to deploy it to the service. The service is in a workspace. The workspace obviously has the permissions, and then you get all the cool benefits like Anitha was saying at the end, subscriptions and alerts, which I'll broach on here at the minute as well. Business Central has this pretty cool thing. If you go to online, you look for Telemetry Hero or look on LinkedIn or even some of the Business Central resources available. The Telemetry Hero thing is, it's real. They put a lot of energy and resources into developing an infrastructure for us to see and monitor our ERP system. This is ultimately the resources, the rich resources online that you'll have access to. It talks about the Azure application insights and ultimately how to plug it in. But when you get here, there's really 4 reports inside of the model. If there's a place for us to upload these afterwards, each of these at the bottom is a link that takes you to the right spot, just for what it's worth. So application insights, this is the bucket where we effectively create a container, and that container has like an address or a connection string to get to it. All right. And that connection string that I've highlighted here is what you need to put into Business Central. So Business Central knows where to send its telemetry. Down here is part of that container. You need to have effectively an app access. So we're creating an application ID key here that Power BI will use to read and log and get into that application insights data set. All right. So this is important. It's generally a once and done. You set it up, and this is where you would set up or control your costs or monitor things. Now, you got to be mindful of how many of these you want. I'm a partner, so I have a couple of different ways of looking at this. I sometimes have in areas, I have all of my customers pointing to one application insight. So I can see errors and report on errors from a central location. I can get insights from a central location. I don't have to manage a whole bunch of different places. Whereas You could also set up an application insights connection and bucket, if you will, container for your special purposes. Like if you have a customer or a development effort that requires some intense troubleshooting or is a high volume environment or something like, you want to isolate, spin up a separate container and then drop in the connection strings so that Business Central sends only the information that you want to one place and it's nice and crisp and clean and not muddied up with, a test versus a production or multiple environments in one place. It's an effective way of maybe isolating performance problems by having a clean container. In Business Central, this is what it looks like to get started. I'm on the admin center. So in the Business Central Admin Center, you spin it up and then ultimately you click the link on the left side there. And then when you drop in the instrumentation key, essentially Business Central knows where to emit. Okay. Upon save, be careful because if you do this at like noon and everybody's using Business Central, it's going to restart. So check your sessions first to make sure nobody's logged in. Then you can drop in that key. Business Central will automatically do a reboot, and then you will be able to see that telemetry key cemented into that environment. So it's really pretty straightforward. It does do a reboot just so that you know, and then from that point forward, it'll emit the telemetry to that end. And that's great because you can also change endpoints, okay, or strip it out if you no longer want to emit. So this is where you control how and where Business Central is going to send its signals. The usage app, this is what it looks like. I said it was free. Business Central on the marketplace, they call this now. I've been using this screenshot for years and I was getting ready for today and I went to proof all my links and I realized they've changed some things. So I do have a lot of updated of the Microsoft stuff here, including the updated link where it actually says Microsoft or marketplace.microsoft.com instead of AppSource. But it's the same place in all reality, but they like the term. So you get it now. It's a free download. When you click on that, it goes through the process of ultimately of dropping into your business or your Power BI service, and then just sits there until we're ready for the next step. All right, let's move on. So once that report is effectively sitting there on your Power BI service, the easiest way that I've seen to get there is right from the homepage in Business Central. One of the tiles, usually at the bottom when you scroll down, is this Power BI tile, and it's kind of, there's nothing there until you put something there. And if you hit select report right here, this window pops up. And the backdoor entry here is to hit because there's 6,000 apps on AppSource or something like that. So it's really hard to actually get the search right. But if you click on the three dots and then choose AppSource apps from the Power BI reports tile on your homepage, then you'll get all the right filters applied out in the marketplace. And guess what? With those filters, that arrow, that's the one you want. That's usage analytics. That's the telemetry app right there. At the end of our session, 2 doors down to the right, you'll see another app usage. We'll be back to that one later. This first one is the one everybody can use. So in Business Central or in Power BI, now you open and you see that yellow bar at the top. It says you're viewing this app with sample data. Well, when you click that button, you're now going to, or when you go through the download process first, you can update an existing app with refreshed values in the app itself in case Microsoft improves the model or brings in more tiles or updates the dashboards, or you can install a new version. So it's not a problem. You could have multiple versions of the app deployed at the same time. The Insights ID or the application ID, that key that Power BI needs to go read the data that's in the container, just gets dropped in right here. There's other stuff on the bottom below where I have this box. And without getting too technical, those are filters where you can filter out production type environments versus sandbox type environments, or you can filter out where it's not the sample company Cronus, or where it is only a specific company, even though there might be a couple of hundred companies in the environment. So you have some additional filters. My example only shows getting it all, all the data from the environment. In the report itself, you get to choose how much data you pull in, 30 days, 90 days, a year. How much do you want to look back once that information floods? Now, it depends. When did you start collecting the data, right? If you got all this up and running today, you're not going to have but a day's worth of data. So you think forward, right? You can't just deploy and expect to see data the same day that you've actually connected to and emitted. So, emit, give yourself a little time to then maybe a day or two, and then you can do the Power BI report with, I usually do 360-day look back. Like, why not? So what? I have that timeline that exposes trends which drive insights and things on my dashboard. So of course I want as much look back as possible. The next guy over here is the authentication. You just need to make sure that you're connecting to, with a login and a password to where the application insights is, just as a note. So pretty straightforward, but this gets your Power BI plugged into your Business Central, whether it be production or sandbox, essentially doesn't matter. So now that we know that there's a great tool for us available called the Power BI app, what do we use it for? Where do we use it? So I said earlier in the intro that there's a lot of places that we can use this Power BI tool. So let's start, right? You use it in UAT. And I say this because it's called the usage app. And what it's doing in its organized way is collecting and showing you information going on in your system. I showed dashboards a lot moving forward from here, folks. So you get a real sense of it. But during UAT, we would use it as a project manager to look at a sandbox and monitor. Is the customer doing the UAT? Are they following the test scripts? Are they going and posting general journals? Are they creating customers? Are they running the sales invoice? If telemetry doesn't show it, they're not doing it. So it's very useful as a PM tool, but also you can use it to enforce good behavior, not just proof that people aren't doing well. You'll notice that I'm a bit of an optimist here. So, well, we can say, hey, folks, we got this telemetry tool out here. We'll be able to confirm that you're doing it. Or you can go into the PM meeting and say, wow, I see you guys have really been busy. I see, 14 users were logged in this last week and everybody was busy on Tuesday. How'd it go? Like, this kind of information is really cool to help get users acquainted and comfortable with Business Central. You can use it for training, obviously testing, go live. After go live, of course, you're looking at mostly errors and performance optimization. But obviously end user training, which pages and features people really use. This you could be using it as like a post live event, right? Are people not doing fixed assets? Well, why? Right. So it's a possibility that that's a module they never got to deploy. Right. You can confirm scenarios, run without errors because there is error logging. If you're a developer or in the development arena, this thing is cool because of all of the emissions of things going on. It shows error messages left and right, run times, issues surface. Again, use it all the time. Let's get into some of the dashboards themselves, though. So the first thing was the big all report and connecting. The second tool I have is actually the usage dashboard itself. Okay, there's a whole bunch of these usage dashboards. I'll show you a few of them, but it breaks down activity by session, client, and feature, so you can see where people are actively using Business Central. Now, sessions across when they're using it. Are people doing it on weekends? Are they doing it during the daytime? Are they doing it during the nighttime? You'll be able to tell by the telemetry and also what they're doing. What sort of I'd say browsers and clients are being used? Where's their port of entry, if you will, for utilizing Business Central? Are they on a phone? Are they actually on a desktop? What browser are they using? It's very interesting. Page views and reports. You might find that 2 or 3 people are printing completely different sales invoices, and you want to wonder why. Telemetry can give you insights into, well, that's happening, first of all. Second of all, you can find out why, and then maybe that's okay, maybe it's not. So good insights into the consumption of things, including features, integrations, and features like warnings about things going away in Business Central are all in these dashboards. So let's take a look. The usage dashboard, which is one of 4 dashboards. This is the list of essentially dashboard pages that it has. I'm only going to highlight a few of these. so that you can get a sense of what might be here to look at. A key to be aware of is the bottom of each of the 4 sections is an about this report. It's cool. Start there, read about this report, and just get a sense of what it's telling you on there. It's very insightful. It's like a README page. Okay, so pretty neat. Might want to check that out. So DAO Wow Mao. Highlighting this one, Microsoft is big on this as our essentially project managers. Daily average users, weekly and monthly average users. In this example is the very first dashboard you might come across. Now, on the top right, from a navigational standpoint, a lot of these dashboards have a filter that lets you drill down and look at on the page just one environment, one tenant, one something. You can multi-select in that drop down too. So you can really dial in and filter out the visual, even though you might have 15, 20, or 30 different environments pointing, collecting into one container. You'll notice that I've got a current date. So if it's refreshing nightly, when you deploy this, it's going to refresh once a day around midnight. Not at midnight. Give it a grace period of like 5-6 minutes, either side of midnight. A lot of people want to report or a refresh at midnight. So Microsoft has to manage that at a very high level. So just give it a little time. These dates tell you when it was refreshed, of course. And then this visual at the bottom, you're going to see a timeline. And this timeline is a derivative of how much data you've collected in the system. Are we doing 30 days, 90 days, 360 days? Okay. So this snapshot in time is showing you that we have a growing user base over time. And it could be for a few reasons, right? Are people actually getting into the environment? Or are we just adding more environments that have users using it? So you get to decide, depending on how you deploy, what this usage page means, but the idea is that you're seeing, that your usage grow ultimately over time in terms of access. Clients, you get a little bit of a view into where people are entering in Business Central. So page views by environment, page views, when you're Business Central and you open up a page, that's going to emit some telemetry. And if I go to the same page a whole bunch of times, that's going to emit that a whole bunch of times. So that ultimately gets collected here. So you can see your hot pages, your widely or broadly used pages, or maybe the pages nobody goes into, or they only venture into, once or twice on accident or something. It's interesting. Client usage, client statistics. This is what browsers ultimately people are using. Are people actually using a mobile device? What kind of device is it? Is it having a problem? Are they having a problem printing an Edge? So have them try Chrome. So the idea is you're collecting information about the real world, things you can't see, screen sizes. Got a couple of folks have got some pretty gnarly screens, 3440 by 1440. That's a massively wide screen. So, you do get some pretty interesting data about things going on in the real world with telemetry. The third usage dashboard I want to highlight here is this one. It's got a tree style of tile. And what this is doing on the right is it's grouping and you can filter. I picked one environment, right? One actual environment. So I can see what's going on there. Here I can see they've got some sales activity, page use, some finance, some purchasing. They're really not doing any inventory stuff, it looks like. And I already flipped the bottom of these open. They're not doing manufacturing or project management. How do I know? Because the pages aren't opened. The reports aren't run. So 2 sides of the coin, make sure what they're doing is going well. Find out why they're not using something if it's an area of interest. So I look at this pretty frequently right after plugging in to see, get a good sense of what the environment's like. All right, reports. I like this one because we were looking at pages. That's the user interface. But the reports dashboard is going to tell you what reports people are actually using. So let's follow the example. So down here, we've got this standard sales invoice 1306. Very popular standard sales invoice from Business Central. And what you'll see here is that report has been run 695 times as of this date and time across all tenants, all companies, all environments for the collection period, of course. Here, what I find interesting is that the bulk of these are coming from one production environment. Maybe this is you looking at your sandboxes versus productions. You'll be able to get that all in this place. Now, on the right side, the way this unfolds, I'm able to see that this is an RDLC style of report. I'm also at the bottom able to see when the report is run during the week. Look at the, it's pretty heavy on Thursdays, just for what it's worth. Well, now that's an average over the collection period. So the longer the period, that might even out over time. But based on the collection period, you get some pretty interesting insights. And due to the nature of Power BI, and this is the PowerPoint, you would be able to click on any of these items in the tile, and then it's going to auto filter down the rest of the tiles and the values on the page so you can explore, right? Which was a save report action versus a print report action or a download report action. So you can get into it just by drilling through a little bit better. This is the second part of reports. It is a long scroll page. It's not just a one and done dashboard. You scroll down quite a ways. And what we've exposed here is that that same sales invoice, that one environment that ran it 695 times. Now, ultimately, you see we prove that it is an RDLC report right here. And guess what? 325 of those renderings were on one day. Middle of the month? This is exactly in line with this company's business. I would expect this. And over time, you might be able to say, wow, they have recurring billing on the 15th of the month increasing over time. This is great. They started the year at 250 and the end of the year at 500, unique invoices created for the middle of the month. So you get real insight, data-driven visuals, just by looking at the usage. Let's move on to tip number 3, which is troubleshoot and protect the end user experience. Combine telemetry with tools, with in-client tools to resolve issues. Obviously, that could occur, but also prevent future ones. What it does ultimately does it mean we get fewer surprises. Things can get addressed and fixed faster, and the user might actually not hit a bump in the road as they're using the application. So keeping an eye on telemetry in one way, shape, or form allows you to get you a tool to investigate what the root cause was, like what code unit in what report at what time of day or job. You'll also be able to detect problems early. I'll show you some screenshots of examples of how you can help make sure users have a good experience. Reduce the error dialogues that erode trust. Yes, error messages are included in the telemetry. So you, the sysadmin or the project manager, they don't need to send you a screenshot. It's great if they do, but you can actually see the error messages. And if they hit the thumbs up or thumbs down, on some of those messages, that's omitted too. Pair it with Page Inspector, Event Recorder, and Profile, Performance Profile. These are tools in Business Central, okay, that then also have some level of impact or enhancement when you're doing troubleshooting in an environment that emit telemetry. The tool to do all that good work with, to make sure the users have a great experience, is watching the errors dashboard. There's a few different errors dashboards. It actually pulls together a whole bunch of things you might want to know about as soon as they happen. Okay, so here, it takes people away from their jobs doing support tickets about screenshots and error messages, and it allows you to maybe actually hear what they haven't even told you also was a problem. Okay, telemetry doesn't really lie when it comes to error messages and problems. So the error messages, when they hit them, they might not tell you. Do they need to be trained, right? Is there a missing something in the setup? Is it an integration issue, right? Do you have inbound or outbound calls that are causing some challenges, moving data, getting data, authenticating? That's captured. Is there something going wrong in Business Central? Is there a permissions issue? System errors, as well as pairs with the troubleshooting guides for a prescribed path. So this stuff ultimately then, when you look at this, you'll be able to look at Microsoft Learn and use your favorite co-pilots to, maybe dig in a little bit deeper if there's a technical issue beyond what the dashboard is telling you. So let's dig into a few of these error dashboards. You actually have a dashboard of errors. The very first one is pretty cool. It's a dashboard of errors. This highlights a number of things in one spot one may want to know about. I have set up subscriptions for these reports that email me a screenshot of this every day. There's a few reports I get every day I'll show you on, but ultimately you can look for things that move. You know, wait, there were 0 yesterday. Why are there 10 today? Okay, it's something to know about as you drink your coffee on the way into work. So on this dashboard here, let's just pick a couple. The user logins. Why are users frustrated here? Why do we have user login errors? I want to dig into that one. Well, when you click on the tile, it moves you over to and opens up the login errors dashboard. So these are click-throughs, drill-throughs type tiles. Here's one over here. I don't want people to be frustrated with permissions. Why are we getting permission? Who is it? What are they trying to access? I want to get that. I also want to make sure that any of the integrations that I'm working on, they're fluid, right? That they're able to get what they're going. I need to make sure that my invoices sync, you know, or that my passwords are good, or whatever, you know, it is that's about web services. It's here, right? So a couple examples of these. Focusing end user experience first, the login errors. This is the page. I have it filtered down a little bit, but ultimately you can see here I have had of all time 12 total login errors. Actually, if you go to the right, within the last 7 days, I've had 1. That's what triggered me to look at this. It's like, just had a login error. Let me look at that. So that's an example of maybe putting an alert or a subscription on the dashboard. So here I can say, wow, we had 11 of them came from one production environment and 1 of them came from this other one. Oh, I know why the 1 happened in the bottom. That was me. I can ignore it. But the 11 happening at a real customer in production, I might want to go, you know, dig in and investigate that. So this page ultimately lets you do that. Here says the company does not exist. It's likely somebody has a bad bookmark in their browser. And they get frustrated every time they log in. And then it takes them to Cronus. Like, there's a downstream effect for the user. If we don't like dial these in and detect and try to hone, you know, an optimization into that. Maybe I read into it a little bit too far, but I want people to love Business Central. Permission errors. Well, every minor and major update to Business Central emits telemetry. That telemetry then ultimately reflects especially any changes in permissions. Let's say that they just came out with its expense agent. Well, the expense agent has pages and permissions and reports, right? And things that are new to Business Central. Well, what if, you know, this read-only user or whatever, you know, is having trouble trying to open up a lookup list because this new feature exists? Or you want to give them access to that. So there's some permission things that surfaced in telemetry that you may want to dial in if you have custom permission sets to accommodate new features along the way. Dashboards are great. This one essentially dials this in and tells me this was a CRM opportunity issue. I'm not using CRM here. I don't care. But the dialogue the user sees is exposed. So that's what I was saying earlier. It's really nice to be able to get in. When did it happen? You know, what was the error message? Is it preventable? Is it a one-time thing? Pretty helpful to know about. Let me pop down now to outgoing web service errors. And I picked this one out of the other ones because a lot of systems integrate they push a button and they pull data in from other systems to Business Central. All right, so outgoing web service errors. It could come from all different means and purposes. So here is an example. Outgoing web service errors. So for what it's worth, you know, outbound web service calls, you know, they have error messages, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 messages. And, you know, they're all pointing to where in the process the problem is. All right, 400 errors, 500 errors, those are bigger deals. Those are, you know, something you obviously want to be detecting here. So in this example, all right, we've got outgoing web service calls by environment. So this is great. I'm able to see how much usage I'm getting outbound. You know, if nobody's using the sandbox, that makes sense. So, you know, outbound outbound web service calls in total can then be broken down by product. All right, so here's some errors, and these are grouped effectively by the host. Notice that first host there has really got the bulk of them, that 43 of the 51 errors, and you know, is really coming from that one environment. There's a lot to the outgoing web service errors environment and the tiles and so forth. But if you're a developer, or if you're looking to confirm that those automated, maybe even job queue based things are always happening without error, you might want to tune into that page. Tip number 2, tune performance and integrations. So we all want it to work well. We all want it to work fast. Telemetry helps tell you where you might be able to make some improvements. Okay. Typically see this on integrations as well as reporting, but you're able to spot things like SQL or inefficient AL code going on. There might be some things in the environment that might have been installed and they're being chatty and you really don't use in real life. Like, you might be checking the weather. Who knows what app somebody threw in? It really doesn't belong, but you could detect it and maybe pull it out of the environment if it was not needed. You might also use that to find out why. Like, my real life example, I found a chatty app once, and we actually went to the ISV provider and said, "You guys aware this is happening? Is there something you can do? Because, we really are making too many calls that feel like, and it's either timing out or it's looping." So, we want to be mindful of what sort of apps in our environment are making too much noise. Identify missing index and database locks. That's all great for performance when doing queries, lookups, reporting. And then measure the impact before and after. If BC is having an upgrade, you can look at the telemetry before and after. If your product is getting deployed and going through an enhancement or regression testing, you can look at the telemetry before and after in a sandbox. So this is a real measuring stick, this easy to use tool. The dashboards for performance, the tool to use looks like this. It spots and highlights the errors, or not the errors, but the areas where you might not be optimized. Long running SQL queries. Why? Are we not indexed? There's probably some good reasons that are back there for this. Web service and API call durations. Why do we have such long calls? Why do we have so many calls? Okay, those are good questions. Do we have failed calls? Database locks and wait statistics. Database locks is a big one, especially for posting. If you're trying to troubleshoot posting issues, telemetry is going to give you some good intel. And then you can use that slicer to slice out, like I said, sandboxes, production environments, or even down to just a single company within one of the environments that's sending some emissions. So on our third dashboard of the 4 that come with the Power BI telemetry for BC, you've got recommendations. That's kind of cool. Recommendations, my dashboard is telling me to look at these things. Reports not using read scale out. Well, Microsoft changed and is about to deprecate some functionality in how you can access web service data for reporting. A lot of us built Power BI reports against it, Business Central. They've changed the way we should be doing that. So this is an example of where you can expose maybe some of that risk, where you need to revisit reports that need to move to the read layer of Business Central and get out of the actual production layer, since you're really only reading for reporting. But anyways, there's a number of items on here. Long-running SQL queries is always of interest to me because that's data. And then I want people to have a good experience when they're logging into Business Central. Okay, why are we having slow on-company operations? So on-company open. Outgoing web service calls. A couple of highlights here. How many times are we getting outbound calls from an environment? What is the total time taken up? What sort of things are we doing with our outbound calls? Are we getting, look at this, 96% of what I'm doing is just getting data. That makes sense. I'm not taking and pushing or putting or posting data anywhere, really, except maybe a status change after an integration completes. So this is neat. You can dig into it and filter it over time and by environment just to isolate issues. Whoops. So the last one down in the lower is outgoing web service call statistics. These are the actual URLs that are being called as part of this data set on outgoing web service calls. It's a long page. There are actually 4 sets of scrolls. I'm only going to show you 3. This next one here is outgoing by publisher. If you have ISV solutions, look at this, the Greyvoc one, those guys, that's us, right? Where we see that our product as a publisher, maybe we have 10 different products in the environment. Well, this one is, just a roll up of all of the products per the publisher. So maybe that's how you spot an issue and optimize your environment. Down here, app details and which point does this come from? Clearly, Greyvoc is the biggest winner here. We're using the most of those web calls. When is it happening? This could be interesting as well. When are things happening in the environment in terms of outgoing calls? If you're going to schedule an update to your Business Central environment, do you need to pause the outgoing integration at the same time? Maybe you need to stop the job queue or make sure, obviously, any integrations are kind of shut down for this. This tells you when those are running, theoretically. So you get insights. Look at Fridays. Busy day, for people doing this work. Maybe Tuesday is a better day for me based on data to do something that might interfere with their daily flow. We're almost to the end of this stack trace one here. AL stack, we did SQL before, that was data. AL stack is application. Here you get some rich information, and I usually pair up with my developer friends and say, here, look what I found. Look at this. And it ultimately says, oh, that helps me, or that's a reminder, or you're correct, right? So what the stack trace does is it tells you what code unit's effectively running and then what started it and where it crashed. So you get, kind of a buildup, if you will, a storybook of error messages in the code. This is some SQL stuff down here. I just popped up a little bit. Long-running SQL queries. That's data by environment, right? What objects are using the SQL consumption here? Ultimately, what apps are using them? So, little on the technical side. There's plenty more that I didn't show that were technical, but this is performance. What if there were some things in here that you could control with your code? What's running and things are erroring out? Ultimately, this is neat. I show this because it gives you a hint. It says a select statement is too big. Can you create an index instead? So pretty neat to see this behind the scenes if you're really in the development mode. And yes, pointing to the sandbox. Yes, collect your emission data over there. It doesn't cost a ton of money, thankfully. So, and you can pretty much delete it or open a new one anytime. So now what if you're a developer and you're developing your own extensions for Business Central? This is over and above. I know I got about, how many minutes do I have left? 2 minutes? 2 minutes? All right, I'll wrap up. That's all right, I'm almost done. So this, the Marketplace app, this is for developers. I really even don't have a lot to show on this, but that developer mindset where you want to dig into your own stuff, your own products, telemetry, you can set up with the JSON, app.json manifest some information about your extension. And then all that information goes over to the container, and Power BI and Microsoft Business Central has an app for that. This is for your stuff. That first one up till now was for everybody, first time and long time users. But this app is specific to developers. So know that it's out there. It might help you in your own troubleshooting journey. These are the dashboards that are in that developer app. All right, there's a couple on error messages, performance, administration, and usage as well. This is more of a hot tip for you. A couple of other fellow MVPs went through and created this absolutely amazing thing called a Telemetry Buddy. It looks at your application insight data. It uses some pretty high-tech tools and techniques and things. I want to just let you know this is out there in the marketplace for Visual Studio, especially for the developer mindset. There is a link at the bottom of this that says, I did a thing again, BC Telemetry Buddy. Ultimately, what they did is they built a thing that says, how's my Business Central doing? And it just knows how to answer based on your telemetry data. Absolutely fascinating and definitely worth taking a few minutes to look into. I'll skip this one, but highlight Anitha talked about setting up subscriptions in Business Central, or sorry, setting up subscriptions. I use those. I get them in my inbox every day. Those are pretty easy to set up. I'll show this in case you want a screenshot. But the idea is that you set up on a tile that something that you want to get alerted for, how you want to get alerted, and when. And on the right side, that email shows up in your inbox every day with a quick screenshot with a link. If something's of interest in that email, click on it and go see the data. Or if it's completely uninteresting, delete it and move on. But it's really helpful to have at least that as a reminder for things. The last one is alerts. This happens more as soon as the dashboard gets refreshed. Something that you might be looking for essentially signals an alert to you. You're going to get a Teams message, you're going to get an email, you're going to get something that sends your way, hey, this happened. Okay. And that could happen especially when you are looking to validate future releases in your environment. That's one of the dashboards. And one of your extensions fails a future validation. Telemetry alert can tell you right away, and then you can put the wheels in motion, right? We go to the sandbox, we talk to the developer. What do we do next? And again, this is an email that I typically set up to send me those alerts. And maybe next time I can get 5 more minutes so we can do it a little bit more. But yeah, I'll get out of here. I want to get on to the next one. I can provide this ultimately as a follow-up if you're able to send it out to anybody. I'm happy to share that as well.
Awesome.
All
Thank you
right.
so much, Dave.
You
That was
are
a lot
very
of
welcome.
really cool information.
There you go. If you want to reach out to me, go ahead and send it to me here, D Laster. Go ahead and reach out. Feel free to link in if you like. I love Dynamics and appreciate the opportunity. Let's grow this Northeast New England Doug group. Keep coming back for more.
Thank you.
Thank
Does
you,
anybody
David.
have any questions for Dave before he takes off? Doesn't look like there's any questions for you.
Okay.
You're that good.
Be well. Well, hey, there's so much to share. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to the rest of this. Take care.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Andrew, do we want to quickly try to get through round 2 of trivia so we can give Nathan some time to get his
Yes.
session in?
Yes, 100%. So is everybody ready? I'm going to post question number 5, round 2, question number 5. It's coming at you now. I know we have a couple of people that were winners in round 1. Tracy. Any more answers? Okay. Question 6. Here we go. Oh, Mike, if you go up to the chat to the right, there's a question and answer. So instead of being in chat, go to Q&A. And in there, you'll be able to, there. Oh, you were. Okay, I'm posting the next question, question number 6. Make sure maybe you're in all. Make sure you're not in my posts or archived. You clicked on all.
Andrew, I found that if you click back and forth between chat and Q&A, it does a quicker refresh because there's a
Okay.
delay.
All right. Could try that.
Agreed. That worked for me too.
All right. Tracy, you're on fire today. She figured it out. Make sure you guys are doing the refresh. Here's question number 7. And here it comes. John, Mike, you got that one. See, Mike, you're in now. You know the trick. All right, and here is question number 8. This is the final one for this round. Question 8 is posted. Nice job. All right, so that was the end of round 2, and we will hand it now over to Nathan, our last presenter of the day.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen and turn on my camera. So, hello. So what I'm going to talk about today is this is a presentation that I wrote to present in Europe, and through a series of bad luck, I wasn't able to present it. But I'm going to reuse it here. And if you're a BC person, I'm primarily an F&O speaker. But if you're a BC person, give me maybe 3 minutes, and we'll talk through similarities, and we'll just talk concepts and less about technology and all that good stuff. But this is, I call it from idea to production, how to get all of your customizations and everything code related checked in and through your pipeline without losing anything, and making sure you know where stuff is at all times. So my co-presenter for this was Lane Swanka, so this is the original presentation. I did want to call out this barcode right here. If you just hit that with your phone, that'll take you to the repository where I've posted all the content here. So I talk a lot about stuff you can do with DevOps and build pipelines and YAML and a bunch of other technical stuff. If you want to just go get all the artifacts and play with it yourself, there's the link. It's on my GitHub right down here. But I am Nathan Clouse. I'm a senior technical solution architect with HSO. I've been working with finance and ops / AX almost 19 years now. And I've been Microsoft MVP for the last 6 years. So the question that we're trying to solve here is, how many of you have deployed a package to production and weren't absolutely 100% sure what was in it when you promoted it, or what went into UAT when you decided to promote it? Most of the time you have a pretty good idea, but when we say absolute 100%, that becomes more challenging. So one of the things we're just trying to strive to do is have just one artifact created once, carried forward, untouched. So you build it once and you know exactly where all these things are. Because since we touch money, we do accounting, we don't want random bugs popping up from code that may be moving around we don't know about. So what we'll cover today is I call the immutable artifact or immutable packaging. How we can get that through all of our different environments, how we can add structural enforcement to the process, not just have people know what to do, when to do it, but actually have automations that do a lot of the work for us, so we know precisely who is doing what when, because it's all automated and logged, and full environment automation via PPAC. Other stuff we won't cover, X++, design patterns, Dataverse solutions, Power Platform, ALM, mostly focused on just mostly our custom solutions, whether it's X++ or AL. For this presentation, I'm going to speak mostly about F&O concepts, but I put together this quick slide just to sort of show when I say deployable package, the Business Central analog there is a .app extension. We have for X++, we call them hosted build agents. You have your AL compile plus some NuGet feeds. On the F&O side, we have PPAC. You have the BC admin portal. So there's a lot of similarities. Everything is a different name. It's a different tool, but the capabilities are, at least 80% identical, if not much closer to 100%. I'm not a BC person, so I can't speak specifically to how to use some of the tools around BC, but we have a lot of similar solutions, a lot of similar capabilities. So I'm going to sort of talk in aggregate about capabilities and less focused on just one solution or the other. Really, I want to talk about the big picture, and this is sort of the solution for how we want to deliver any code, any customizations in our environments. So up here, we have our different branches. So we may have a main branch, a release branch, but these all sort of tie together for how we want to trigger this stuff. So our branches are our working areas, which is great. It's great to have a work area, but we're only interested in when things change in a particular way so that we can trigger some actions. So as a, for instance, if I get some new release branch, this would be a new version I want to push out. I create it, and then I can do something called pull request to effectively push it somewhere else, and then do some automations based on that. And this diagram is a little bit busy, but I just want to call out we've got different trigger points that trigger various automations. In this case, a build. And then once we've got a build, we can deploy it in various places, building upon past successes of it was tested and approved, whether that's automated testing or not, it's not important. But in this instance, I created a new release branch, I build it, I push it out to my UAT environment that passes testing. It goes into my data migration environment that passes testing. Then I'll push it out to my gold environment, confirm that it goes there without issue, and we didn't have any regressions in terms of data or anything else. And then finally push it out to my production environment. For really this diagram, I'm more focused on implementation. If you're already live and you don't have a gold or DM environment, you can just remove those. It's the same basic process. And sort of on the other side, when we want to add new code, I can create a new branch for like a bug or a hotfix or new feature. Use build pipelines to automatically provision environment for me to work in. For us with finance and operations, environment provisioning can sometimes take up to 4 hours, but we wait for the environment provision, then we take a database copy and put real actual data from a known good source in there. And the real benefit there is your developer has real data, real customers, real items, real vendors to work against, not just made up Contoso data that you can't write meaningful test cases for. And lastly, I talked about these pull requests. A pull request is just a way for a developer to signal that they think they're done with their work. And that can go run a build, compile our X++, or just compile our code, run it through any integration testing. We can spin up an environment just for that one thing to put the code in there, put some data in there, run automated testing, do anything else we want in there, tear the environment down, get all our storage back, post the results, and then if it makes it through all of that, then we accept the pull request into the next branch, meaning the developer signaled they're done with their work. It built, it went through all of our automated testing, it made it through some database and ALM lifecycle stuff. Everything from an automated perspective looks good. We're going to go ahead and queue it for acceptance. For F&O people, and I'm going to sort of breeze through this, but LCS is going away. Hopefully that's not news. If you don't know what LCS is, you're probably positioned better than most everyone else. LCS is now a legacy management platform that is, I want to say, around 12 years old at this point. Not quite ancient, but getting up there. And LCS had a really particular way of delivering solutions that is not in line with what SaaS offering now is today. So LCS has a lot of just dated design philosophies, and that is not to speak ill of the LCS team. They are a victim of their own success in that the LCS product started as one thing, and then it turned into a solution for 50 other things, and they were able to keep up. But now we've got more API-driven experiences that are expected, and that's what PPAC does. So LCS is going away. PPAC is the future. PPAC is going to be API-driven with hosting agents. There's a lot of stuff that we can now automate that we couldn't in the past. But when looking at LCS versus PPAC, PPAC has a lot of automation capabilities for pushing code around, pushing data around, creating and disposing of environments that LCS just simply doesn't have. LCS typically, in general, can cost more money. We're using Azure traditional VMs rather than our PPAC storage. There's a different asset library that has to be managed. There's just different things that have a less polished and less SaaS and API first front end on top of them. And PPAC is really just more polished and more geared towards a much more satisfying self-service experience where you can create your own to basically do whatever you want so long as you've got the storage. So we're going to talk about what I call the immutable artifact, or just your software build, whatever it is. We want to compile something once, build it once, build in a version number, and then know precisely where that goes in all of our different environments. So here we would have, like in X++, would be published as a pipeline artifact with a unique name and a unique version. So then we can manage that across all of our different environments. And if we get a new build version that has some different code in it, we'll know specifically which versions are where we need to apply updates if things went wrong. Just have a much higher level of granularity than we have in the past, specifically around what we now used to consider normal inside of using LCS. When it comes to like BC, I'm sort of going to read through the slide because I don't fully appreciate some of this, but very similar to X++, we've got compiled from source on hosted agents. If there's any symbols or any outside packages we need to get from NuGet, there's support for that. We would want our version number baked into the app.json at compile time. So again, we get that known specific version of our deployable. And it can be signed and published as a pipeline artifact. And just like with X++, it becomes immutable at that point. It becomes a known fact. And then we can move that around from test UAT pre-prod and production, however we see fit, and we would know precisely what is where when. And really why this matters, historically, and we're going back maybe 10 years for finance and operations, we haven't had strong ALM offerings from Microsoft. So there was probably at least every F&O person who's been around 10 years has a story of where they had to roll back a deployment to production or something like that. That's because we didn't know precisely what was in a particular thing when we rolled it out, because we didn't have immutable artifacts. We didn't have known version numbers. We didn't know exactly where everything was. And now we want to head towards an environment where everything is deterministic. So we get one compile, we get one artifact. That artifact is versioned, and then we move that particular version around per environment. And ideally, we're doing all of this with automation and approval workflows, not people clicking buttons or manually invoking APIs. This is just an example of what the artifact promotion could look like. So here we have our build where we create our artifact. That gets created once. In PPAC, we create this DLL type deliverable rather than a zip or an SDP, if you're familiar with those terms. But once we've got our binary, this becomes sort of a known fact, this 2605.1601, and we deploy it to UAT for validation. We leave a workflow open for someone to approve that that passed testing. They approve that workflow, then automation takes it to the next environment. Another person would review and approve that, or groups of people. Then that workflow gets approved, and we again take that same deployable, same package, and move it to the next environment, and so on until we get it into production. So we can see from start to finish for this version 2605.16.1, who built it, who last touched it, how it built, how it tested, who approved what, all the way from where it started to where it ended in production. And that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but that is very powerful when you are tracking down bugs that are specific to a version. And you can see where maybe processes went wrong in terms of testing, so you can upgrade your testing and prevent this from happening in the future. In terms of strategy, with Git, I'm a huge proponent of Git. So if you're used to using TFS, now's the time to start learning Git. TFS is not going away by any means, but the experience you get with Git, it's much more what other software platforms are using, what PPAC really wants to deliver on. But if you want to use TFS, feel free. But the promotion model for this would be from feature to a pull request to main to a release branch, and then that release branch creates your artifact that goes into UAT, data migration goal, and eventually production. And the benefits of this pull request, which is a feature of just Git, is you can use that trigger to provision all kinds of automations for that particular instance of what it is you want to do. So we can provision, I call it an ephemeral sandbox, but just an environment that is just there for automations to support testing. And then we get rid of it when we're done. We can copy databases in from known good sources. So if any of our changes make alterations to data, we can confirm that those work as expected, potentially with a production workload. We can deploy the package with a full DB sync. So again, if we're structurally changing the database, we can make sure DB sync doesn't get confused. Like if we do something we're not supposed to do, like change a field data type without changing the name, we can test all of that stuff through automation. Again, if you've got any automated testing, you can use those too. So RSAT or any of the other tools that are out there. And then eventual teardown so you can get rid of the environment and get your storage back. Similar to what I just described in X++ with BC, this is almost an identical slide, but we're using BC specific terms where you can do from feature to pull request to main to release and then test UAT pre-prod and production. And you can spin up environments on demand with the BC administration portal, publish the .app and run all of your test code units if you have any. Just do automated testing in general. And when you're done, get rid of that environment and free up your storage. In terms of branching strategy, I just put this diagram together to show that one of the primary benefits of using Git in terms of source control is we can have multiple individuals working on multiple features at the same time. And we can sort of mishmash them all together into a working solution at the end without a bunch of manual reviews or commits or resolutions of different people working on the same thing. Git handles that sort of thing much better than TFS does. But once we've got everything put together, it'll go into sort of our integration gate where we can build it, run any tests, and sort of move it forward, even if we've got multiple contributions from multiple people in different areas of the system. We can take it all together and move it forward. And then on the other side, once we've got it built, we can make our release plan, which is just a collection of what went into each branch, and push that out again as an immutable artifact. And I call this the sort of the PR is the quality gate, so the pull request. PR is short for pull request. By the time the release branch is cut from the main branch, so the release branch is just a point in time of what our code looks like. Every commit has already been validated in a real FNO environment. So we've done any of our automated testing, our manual testing, volume testing, data architecture testing, whatever kind of testing you may have or can think of, it would already be done at this point. We're not creating a specific release and then testing it. We're testing everything that might go into that release that gets approved. Then we sort of carve out our release from that. And why this is important is because this allows us to create structure. So in the past with LCS and other systems, we've used process. So that's people being told when to do something or what to do and how to do it. But with a pull request as sort of our quality gate, that allows us to do structure. So we don't have to remember to do stuff. We've got automations and triggers that'll do all the stuff for us, then email us when they need something. The validation flow, just sort of diving into this a little bit more. You do your compile, spin up an ephemeral or just temporary environment. Wait for it to provision and stabilize. Stabilize could mean install any other apps or add-ons or pipe any data in that you may want, whatever your specific environment may have, and then copy in data, deploy the package from our immutable package from our build, do a database synchronization, run any smoke tests, whether they're API driven or not. It's really up to you. Use sysunit or your AL code unit, get some results, store those results as part of the pipeline results, and then delete your environment. And so what this allows us is, again, structural enforcement. So the PR gate must pass. We have to be able to do all those things without receiving an error. It only deploys from release if the I guess all the automation executes without issue. And if it can't do that, then it won't reach UAT and it won't sort of be included in the chain to get it all the way to prod. And this means that release change off of deploy success, and you can't skip validation. So this is sort of a double-edged sword where if you're unable to pass validation, that doesn't mean your code, or that means your code is not going to be allowed to go to production. So you have to build something that works best for you. So maximize quality while minimizing inconvenience. But if you have, for instance, something that happens common with us is people changing a data type on a field without changing the field name. That would tank a production deployment, but may not necessarily in another style of environment. Or you can manually fix it in another style of environment where in production you can't. So that's just to prevent bad things from happening in production. And really just the key takeaway here is the artifact never changes, only its fate does. Where it can go, how it passes tests. So if we fail a test, and our version sort of gets blacklisted for the rest of the deployment chain, that's a feature. We want that. We don't want bad stuff to go to production. In terms of a pattern, this is what I sort of recommend. This is focused towards F&O, but it's going to be similar for any SaaS-based product, where we would do a readiness check, make sure the environment is there. It's not being serviced by some other thing. Microsoft will deploy stuff to our environments, including quality updates or Power Platform packages. So confirm it's ready. Once it's ready, go ahead and deploy our package and report the outcome. And then I always suggest the trust but verify style of just managing environments. We'd have an independent check via the management API for that environment to confirm it did transition to our new version number for the packages that we know about in there. So we expect it to be on version dot 16. We'll go ahead and confirm it actually did advance to that version from the last version of dot 15. Then once we've got that, notify stakeholders, and we can, I call it gate downstream environments, but just mark it for being allowed to go to the next stage of its existence. In terms of a deployment template, this is just what it would look like. This is very Power Platform focused. So this is just a sort of a mind map of what that would look like. Just to conceptualize, so it's not just a wall of text. But again, are you there? Is the environment ready? All right, let's go ahead and deploy. And then once we've done that, we confirm that the environment is operational and that everything was deployed to it through verifiable facts like version numbers. And then we notify the team via Teams or whatever type of messaging you would like that the deployment is done. And this can be done for dev, test, prod, really you name it. Next, sort of the readiness and synchronous. So you can poll an environment to see what state it's in. It might be being updated by something else. So that is something you can do. Typically, we recommend no more than 60 minutes of waiting for something. If you have to wait more than 60 minutes because something else is servicing it, just fail the pipeline and it'll requeue for the next time window it has, whether that's 4 hours from now, the next evening, whatever. But in general, if it's there, deploy when ready. And if there's something that isn't there or it's being serviced, you can do an instant failure to say, hey, Microsoft is deploying a quality update tonight. We're just going to wait until tomorrow night to do our stuff. Sometimes that happens, usually not, but Microsoft operates on their own schedule for updates. And occasionally there have been instances in the past where Microsoft did an emergency rollout of something that was unplanned and announced 24 hours ahead of time. You can do the synchronous wait where you can just go issue the command. The command will sit potentially in queue. Then you just can ask it what it's doing. You get an operation number and you can ping, see what that operation is doing. But that does come with a 3-hour timeout. So really whichever one works best for you. But I typically recommend the environment readiness sort of check rather than sort of on the right-hand side, fire and forget and hope for the best. Next, automation. So this is, I think, what's of most interest to me because historically with LCS, everything has been largely manual to get our environments. And now we've got APIs to spin up environments on demand, tear them down on demand. So there's a lot of just a lot of new stuff that we can do with that, especially for F&O. But again, earlier I talked about triggers. You can use triggers to push like a feature branch to a sandbox environment that gets automatically provisioned. You can apply templates to environments to get an idea of how one add-in may affect your environment, or if you add any other Dynamics products into the mix, what that would look like on maybe the CE side or Proj Ops side. You can use this to do database copy from a known good source, and you can use this to deploy code from day one. And what this allows for us to do is once you've got all this automation in place, like the really cool killer feature here is when a work item comes in that says, add these 3 customers to the customer master and put it on this form and throw it on this data entity. On that work item, you can create a branch. And that branch will have, reference to our feature. It'll be a feature branch, and it can do all of these things for us. And then send an email to the developer who's been assigned to work on that to say, hey, you've got a new work item. Here's the work item and the details, that may have a link to an FTD or a TDD. And by the way, here's your environment for that one task I want you to work on. Once they're done, they would do a PR merge. So they'd signal that all their code is complete. They've created a pull request. Another person would review and approve that. Once approved, we delete their sandbox. We delete their work area where they did all of their work. We keep the resulting work product, but we get rid of the environment that we're working in, and that releases our storage. So then there's 0 infrastructure to manage. I don't have to make build VMs. I don't have to make dev VMs. I don't have to do anything in Azure if I don't want. It's all just sort of magically there when I want it and gone when I don't need it anymore. For the environment lifecycle, again, some of our times related to a Power Platform can go upwards of 4 hours, but we're sort of picking best case scenario here. Where we create a feature branch, we provision all of our environment stuff and just get it ready for a person to interact with and then start doing the work. And the other benefit that this does is, particularly when using older styles of source control like TFS, it is possible to assign work with TFS where the underlying code base doesn't compile. So you're sort of setting your dev up for failure because you're asking them to do more work on top of work that doesn't actually compile. This eliminates that, so we can confirm when we're handing out new development work items to our developers, where they're going to work fully compiles. So this code they're starting with works, and the code that they should end with should also work. But once they're done, we get, they'd create a pull request that could spin up another environment for someone to review it in. Again, copy the database from a known good source, reapply the packages or apply the deployable packages, do the DB sync, restructure the database around your data if it changed, do any smoke tests, confirm if all automation passed, and then we can leave that there for a person to manually interact with, as long as that this pull request is open. I'm a technical architect. I do a lot of review of work. I review the work product here and the output, run some tests, then approve the pull request, then go through here. And then either way, whether we get a pass or a fail, we tear down that environment because we don't need it anymore. Then after that, we do any cleanup of our PR, so that would go out and delete anything spun up just for that environment. Just as a quick side tangent, if you're doing anything with Azure development, with like IAC or anything with biceps or ARM, and if you don't know what those are, that's perfectly fine. You can have those spin up related to your environment as well and torn down as part of this PR acceptance cleanup process. So the full development lifecycle, where I sort of get really excited about some of the new capabilities that we have with PPAC. Is this, we can create sandboxes on demand and get them into particularly, a particular known good state. So our developers can work with real data. They're not working with Contoso data. They're not working with just all master data from like their data migration environment or a gold environment. They have all the stuff you would need in order to do real tests against real data for a particular environment or workload. So I sort of quote down here, infrastructure is cattle, they're not pets. And what I mean by that is for F&O specifically, we want to get away from, historically, we've had this attachment to our developer environments. So we spin up one, keep it around for years. That's no longer the case. We can spin them up when we need them and get rid of them when we don't. So they're not a pet that we need to keep around and have and care for and feed. There's more cattle in a herd. And really just environments are disposable, and the code and the work product that we're working on is what's most important. With a lot of the new APIs and triggers I talked about within PPAC, there's a lot of automation that we have available after we envision it or provision an environment. So if you're doing anything with like dual write, you can do DMF entity refresh and start firing up some of your dual write workloads with some additional tooling from Microsoft. You can do invalidate or environment validation checks, like, it's on a particular version that you want it to be on. It has 1,000 customers because that's the number of customers you expect to be in there, or at least 1,000 customers. If there's any reconfiguration of the environment, again, going back to Azure infrastructure, if we need to spin up some of that and connect our Azure infrastructure to our sandbox environment that we just spun up, we can do that too, or reconfigure the environment to what I call a set point. So if we want to, let's say we have a backup of gold from 2 weeks ago, and we want to take that and put that in an environment. We can certainly do that to see what gold looked like 2 weeks ago versus now, and maybe that'll tell us what happened with a particular setting that got flipped if we weren't auditing that particular setting. But with automation, we can sort of pick our source and target environments. So there's no specific manual steps other than say, I want data from over there to be over here. And just as a common gotcha with Power Platform, is your service principal has to be a registered user inside of F&O. And the reason why I call this out is when we do database refreshes, all of our users that are not the environment admin get disabled. So more than likely the SPN related to our user gets disabled. So we have to have some kind of automation to re-enable our automation users, typically on that environment admin. So sort of a pain, but just plan ahead. Security and governance. All of this helps with preventing packages being just deployed to production. As a somewhat interesting byproduct of Power Platform, it is technically possible for you to take a package from something that exists like on my laptop, and I can deploy it straight to production. That's for F&O, and that's more of a feature of how Power Platform works. So we can turn that on or off, but I'd advise you turn that off and then do everything through sort of these enforcement layers, which is just all the automation we talked about. So we've got branch triggers, doing pipeline chaining. So once an artifact gets approved for UAT, we can move it to DM, then gold, then production, or whatever your environment chain looks like. We can have workflows as part of every step So when we need something to go, like let's say be approved for production, rather than have one specific individual be allowed to approve it, you can set it to a group of people, and at least 3 people need to approve. So there's never one individual person who's in control of everything, for just allowing people to take vacation and to be away from their jobs. But also, if there's something unknown or something that isn't communicated well, then the workflow would probably be declined until everyone knows what's going on, why something might need to be approved, and what's in there with like version notes or release notes. For our service connection, I talked about that SPN before. Again, with service connections, that would allow us to dictate which pipelines or which automations can do what with what environments. So we're not allowing every pipeline to do everything across all of our environments. We can separate that out so that a particular environment only is allowed to do, these 3 things. If they try and do some 4th thing they're not approved to do, that automation gets blocked. And lastly, business hours restrictions. This is something from DevOps, not PPAC or anything else. But you can define when your deployment hours are. So even if everything goes great in terms of everything gets approved, it goes through the pipeline chain. If someone in control of the schedule for when production can be down says you can't have any downtime for the next 3 weeks, well, that's fine. Our package will deploy sometime after that 3 weeks. So we can define when our sort of go, no-go hours can be if we need true 24-hour operations. Finally, each layer is independent. And when you start getting independence in terms of your governance layers, that means more people involved and the less likelihood there could be anyone involved making or performing actions that are in any way in bad faith. The security layers, I just sort of wanted to, chart this out. We have sort of just this, pass-fail ladder that permeates the entire chain. So if anywhere in there we get a failure, that kicks everything out, and then we'll have to try again. So it can be sort of a pain, but also given that we handle money, it's important to have a high level of accuracy and success with everything that we do, so we don't have to answer questions, that auditors may ask, especially as it relates to ALM. And similarly, we've got different policies we can put in place with that, service control or service connection control, branch controls. So, only certain code that came from a certain place can go to a certain environment. And do we have, downtime allocated by the business in order to do this? So individually, not sort of a big deal, but together, if you string them all together, you get a suite of just pipelines that make it such that we can just deliver stuff and it happens automatically after hours. So we can focus on stuff that draws our interest, not clicking buttons inside of LCS at 11 at night to have a package go out. So getting started. In general, I call this the minimum viable pipeline. You'll want to build pipeline, a PR validation, and a deploy pipeline. There's some prerequisites. This is all in Microsoft documentation. And at the end, I'll have a link to my GitHub that draws all this stuff out. But Microsoft has said what the prerequisites are. But the most important one is understanding variable groups for any secrets you may have. And I do recommend to use Azure Key Vault for that, but it's not required. Once you've sort of worked through that, and in my GitHub, I've got detailed instructions on how to do this. These are some of the common gotchas where the package DLL is invalid. That's just a packaging error from Power Platform. Microsoft has instructions on how to address that, and just a few others where these are the common things that we've run into just because of misconfiguration or missing a step setting all this stuff up. But lastly, sort of the sprint workflow. You can just have multiple people working on multiple things. It doesn't really matter what those are. You can have independent automated testing. We'll put everything together, run additional automated testing, manual testing, validate with our business users in UAT, and sort of pick, pack, ship that thing all the way to production with traceability, auditability throughout the entire process. And if one thing goes wrong, then we reject it and figure out why things went wrong, address root cause, and try again. And here is that a QR for that. But what this delivers is just an experience where we build once, promote that one thing. We have structural enforcement rather than process enforcement. We can automate this thing as much as you'd like. So you can have like a Teams bot that you talk to that does this, that does all the work for you. But most important, we get zero drift in terms of infrastructure. So we know exactly what is where, when we want it to be there. And this is my GitHub link with all the details, particulars, YAML, pipelines, how-tos, all that good stuff if you want to set this up yourself. And with that, I will open up for questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. I have one to start off while we're waiting for folks to pump in the chat, but you mentioned at the beginning you're probably better off if you don't know what LCS is and know what PPAC is. If you're on F&O, is there a timeline right now that Microsoft has said you have to be off of LCS and transitioned?
Not particularly. Excellent question though. Microsoft last Thursday opened up the private preview for the LCS to PPAC migration pathway. So we still don't know a date specifically when Microsoft has said LCS is finally going to be dead forever. But it's likely we're going to see some pressure or conversation from Microsoft by the end of the year to start thinking about it. Not necessarily that it's going to happen. They're doing limited trials with particular workloads to make sure everything works as expected. And even inside of that private preview, the experience is still very gate-kept. You have to keep Microsoft informed on what it is you're doing. And if you don't do that, they actively prevent you from converting an environment. But the tooling is in development. It's going into private preview. So it's probably sooner rather than later, we'll have a public option. And then we'll start seeing pressure for Microsoft to have people start moving.
Great, thank you. I think I've seen anything else come through in the chat. If anybody has questions, feel free to put them in the chat or come off mute. Otherwise, we'll get ready for the last round of trivia.
And right now we have Tracy in the lead with 3 points. So, Nathan, thank you. Are you still on? You're on. Thank you very much for that. And let's get some of these questions out. This is round 3. We only have a couple of people left. So here we go. Question and answer. Question is now posted. Just waiting for the first answer to come in. Good job. Tracy got that one correct. All right, here's question number 10. This one's a fun one. Yes, Tracy, you got that one as well. And here is question number 11. And at this point, I don't think anybody has even a chance of beating Tracy. So
We lost too many people.
we did. And the people that were in the running were the last two to kind of leave. So, but good job. You
I'd almost rephrase one of these answers to say that's the way we've always done it.
yes.
Yes.
100%. Did you guys want to know what the tiebreaker question was if we did have a tiebreaker?
Sure.
I will just say it. Which country has appeared in the most FIFA Men's World Cup semifinals? Do you need a multiple answer? It's A, Brazil, B, Germany, C, Argentina, or D, Italy.
France
I have
and
not been
Spain are
following
playing right now.
Argentina.
I probably would have guessed Argentina too, but I learned so much about the World Cup this year. It's not Argentina.
Brazil.
Any other? Brazil, Germany, or Italy would be your other three options. Anybody?
Brazil.
No. It was Germany. Germany was thought to be the one who would be winning this whole World Cup, and they were knocked out the first round. So Germany was the one. So Tracy, congratulations. You are the winner. I just have to get some information from you so that we can get you a gift card. So
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed your time. It looks like we have one other member that's still in here that was not a speaker. So
Yeah, thank you to everyone for joining. Huge thank you
yes.
to Nathan and Anitha and David for their time and their expertise. And good luck for them waiting out. If they find out if they're MVPs again overnight, they'll find out tomorrow. So big stressful night for all of them.
Yes.
Are you an MVP again?
I won't know till tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Announcement at the same time. Okay.
Yeah.
Good luck to all of you.
Yes. Can't wait to see all the posts tomorrow on LinkedIn. I'm sure you'll get it again. You deserve it. So.
But yeah, thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Sarav. Andrea, thank you as always for hosting.
Yes.
And we'll try to make sure we do more of these for sure.
Thank you for both of you for doing this, keeping us together.
Yes. So Tracy, I just need maybe your email address. I'm going to give it to Madison, and then she's going to get the gift card out to you.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to just put it in a chat.
Oh, it's okay. I can do that.
If you don't mind, or you can chat it to me. It doesn't matter.
Madison has it too, so it's not.
Oh, okay. Deal. I can then just give her your name. That's good.
There you go.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Then we will see you guys at the next Northeast meetup.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Everybody, have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.